Well, thank you, Minster, for the introduction. My name is Calvin, and today I'm going to be speaking on odds making and the future of sports betting, esports betting, and with emerging technologies like blockchain and how they can improve these industries. So as I mentioned, first we're going to speak about the legal and the regulatory issues surrounding sports betting and esports betting. We're then going to touch on sports betting and then esports, and then finally, like I said, how blockchain and emerging technology is going to really change this industry. So here first, I want to touch upon how some of the interest that surrounds sports betting. So we see here a spike in 2006. Once they had some laws kind of regulating sports betting in the States, there was a spike in interest with sports betting. Again, we see it here in just actually 4 weeks ago. The Supreme Court of the United States actually legalized sports betting in the state of New Jersey. And this really overturned the monopoly that the state of Nevada had with bets that only be placed legally in the state of Nevada. So we see how there's a spike as regulation becomes more, lax in the sports betting industry. So here we see some of the states that are planning on also legalizing sports betting. We talk about here that, as I mentioned, since 1992, there was really no laws allowing bets to be placed online. And that has since changed now with the Supreme Court overturning that ban. And there is some mixed emotions now. So there's mixed emotions from the professional sports leagues because on one side, there's that negative issue or that stigma where there might be some more match fixing. And so that might affect the professional sports leagues negatively. And then on the positive side, there's it's going to create more fan engagement. So people are now going to tune into watching these sport games, which has been declining recently. FIFA World Cup, it's on right now. It has like the worst viewership in the last 50 years. And with sports betting now is that people are going to be looking at like, okay, does Ronaldo score the next goal? Or people will be a lot more engaged, and that's kind of the angle or the positive side that these sports leagues are looking at. So we talk also how US is usually the first one that kind of puts regulation in place, and some of the other jurisdictions are the ones that follow suit. So we always see kind of a bit of a lag between Canada and the UK and other jurisdictions, but it's coming. It's a massive industry. And so we talk here about the size. So the size of the industry, some say it's $1 to $4 trillion, and 90% of that is done illegally, right? And so a lot of the younger generation too, they've grown up and seen different kind of movies and TV shows where people are placing bets, in back alleys. It's kind of shady, and that doesn't really appeal to the younger generation. And so now with people having more smartphones and access to the internet, 77% of people in North America have smartphones, and 25% of them are constantly on it, whether it's Facebook or whatever. So more people have access to the internet, and with that comes the ability to place these bets online through a mobile solution. So in other words, the days of going into a casino, a brick and mortar casino, are going to be over. The ones that are really going to take advantage of this legislation are to be the ones that have mobile solutions that are versatile and they're easy to be placed. One thing actually I want to touch about too is that during times of recession, it shows that brick and mortar casinos actually have some issues with getting people attracting to kind of go and take trips to the casino, whereas online sports betting actually thrives because people see it as a form of entertainment, and that also comes with the stigma as well that's being abolished by these younger generations. They think of it as an entertainment, they're on their couch, they're willing to put $10, $50, as opposed to going into a casino and making the trip and making it a big ordeal. So esports is interesting because it's growing much faster than sports is. There are some people predicting within the next 10 to 15 years that esports will have a bigger viewership than sports right now, and that's kind of where the market is going. So we see here in 2015 some of the revenues from the esports industry and where that is going and plan to go for 2020. And I can speak about this because, as Minster mentioned, I know the industry quite well. I became the #1 global player in Rainbow Six Siege. I'm pretty proud of that. And so I kind of see how big these tournaments really are. I won a couple myself, but where some of the bigger money is in streaming. So you see, who here has heard of like Fortnite? Okay, so Fortnite is like one of the biggest esports game right now. It's kind of like a global phenomenon, and it's just massive. It really took over. So one example is Twitch, Ninja, who's a Twitch streamer. He had about 6 million followers, and he built this over 5 years. And within the last 6 months, with the emergence of Fortnite, he's actually doubled his in less than 6 months. And it kind of just shows how big this is. This particular streamer is making close to $2 million a month just on ads through his stream. So some of the bigger tournaments, there's League of Legends, and one really cool thing here, 17, League of Legends actually bigger. League of Legends viewership than the Super Bowl. So it just shows kind of where this industry is going, and there's some tournament prize money here from the first team all the way to the team, or the last place team that came in 18th. There's some big money in the tournament. These tournaments happen every single month. Epic Games, who's the creator of Fortnite, which I mentioned, is an online game. They just announced that they're putting a $100 million prize pool for the year of 2018. So that's massive. Some studies suggest that the esports industry is a $6.7 billion industry currently, esports betting is a $6.7 billion industry. So this is on secondary markets. This is not tournaments. This is not wagering ecosystems. These are bets placed during these tournaments. So there's also a wager ecosystem surrounding the esports market as well. So I'm going to talk about Fortnite again. Usually there's this wagers where people do a peer-to-peer system. So for example, I want to play against somebody here in the audience. I don't have to know you, but you're somewhere around the world. And we're going to put $5 on the match on who can get more kills in this particular game. At the end of that match, we both report who actually wins. And whoever does takes the other person's winnings. So this is massive in itself. Right now, Fortnite, as I mentioned, is the biggest game, and there's massive liquidity surrounding it. So people 16 years of age are placing bets. $1 each is massive, and that gets taken instantly. It goes up to $5, $20, and plus $100. I have some friends of mine that continually play video games. I've stopped since then, but they're making close to $6,000 a month just doing this wagering platform. So currently, problems in gambling, there's some with sports betting and also in esports betting. The big one is obviously high fees. So the business models around traditional sports books is much like Uber. They're the rent taker. They're the middleman. Uber, for example, what they do is they sit in the middle. They create a service where they match riders and drivers, and then they provide the maps, the direction, and they take a massive fee for doing this, 20 to 30%. I think Grab is the equivalent of Uber here, and I'm sure it's a similar model. Sportsbooks are just like this. So they sit in the middle. They're the middleman. They're the rent takers. What they allow is bets to be placed on either side of Portugal versus Iran, and they essentially create the lines and the spread so that they take 10 to 15% after the bet is completed. Then the issue with transparency, right? So not only are these companies taking massive fees for you to place bets on the platform, you actually have to trust that they're going to secure your funds and hold your funds securely and pay out the winnings. So there's been cases where sports books actually never pay out the winnings. They're considered scam books. There's other issues where regulatory interference comes into play, where the government doesn't like that sports book. They come and shut down that server. There's a single point of failure. It's in this business's basement, and they shut down the server. Or it can be hacked from a third party. So there's a lot of issues surrounding that in terms of transparency, along with the high fees. And then finally is the slow payouts. So a lot of these sports books, they have to rely on third parties to actually redeem the winnings. So if we look at PayPal, Skrilla, or even credit card fees, usually these take all the way up to 90 days to actually receive your winnings, and you actually have to get charged another fee, 3%, 5%. So when everything's all said and done, you're looking at a 20%, 25% with long wait times. So with the emergence of blockchain technology, a lot of these issues that can actually be solved. So it's still in its infancy, blockchain technology, and we're still a whiles away before it can properly scale to some of these bigger, to compete with these bigger sports books. However, with blockchain comes smart contracts. And these smart contracts essentially are accounts that hold funds in escrow. So as opposed to placing a bet with a sports book, you're placing a bet with a smart contract that's completely transparent. Everybody can kind of see where the funds are coming from and place a bet directly with somebody else, similar to a peer-to-peer model. You don't have to trust that person whether they're across the world, because this smart contract, once a winner is decided, automatically pays out winnings. It happens automatic, it's very quick. As opposed to 90 days, we're talking about 30 seconds here, and it's very secure. It can't be hacked or stopped by government because it's not in a single server in somebody's basement. It actually runs on the computers of the world, or like a world computer. So transparency is solved because everybody can kind of see where all funds are coming from. They get paid out automatically, so you don't have to worry that the payouts do not happen. The fees involved as well go from a traditional 10 to 15% down to somewhere between 2 to 3%. And then also the automatic payouts as well. So in conclusion, the esports market and sports betting market is obviously massive. It continues to grow, and there is a bit of a stigma surrounding it. That is also being abolished by the younger generation coming in, seeing it as a form of entertainment, and then obviously the regulatory standpoint coming in and providing some more lax laws around sports betting. So with all in all said, I think and the emergence of blockchain technology, this is an industry that's going to be growing and it's going to be completely revolutionized. And that's all I have for today. Thank you.